The diary doesn't exist because she couldn't write. Yet her grave told a story that changed everything we thought we knew about Viking society. When archaeologists opened burial site BJ 581 in Birka, Sweden, they found what they'd always assumed was a Viking warrior king. Weapons surrounded the skeleton: a sword, an axe, armor-piercing arrows, and 2 sacrificed horses. But then DNA testing in 2017 dropped a bombshell. The warrior was a woman, and she wasn't an anomaly. The Viking Age, spanning from the late 8th to early 11th century across Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, has long been told through the lens of bearded men with axes. But what if the real power, the kind that shaped civilizations, rested in hands that also rocked cradles, commanded ships, and possibly even led armies? The woman who walked through your door could kill you, heal you, or doom your entire lineage with a single word. The keys to the kingdom, literally. Picture a Viking woman walking through her longhouse, and you'd hear them before you saw her. Keys. Not just 1 or 2, but an entire ring of iron keys jangling from a chain at her waist. These weren't decorative. Each key represented a locked chest, a storage room, a wealth repository. In Viking society, these keys were the ultimate status symbol, proof that she controlled the household's resources, food supplies, and valuables. But here's where it gets interesting. When Viking men left for months-long raids or trading expeditions, guess who ran everything? The farms didn't stop producing. The livestock didn't stop breeding. The trading didn't halt. Women became de facto chieftains of their domains, making economic decisions, settling disputes, and managing complex agricultural operations that could employ dozens of people. The archaeological record confirms this wasn't ceremonial. Women's graves across Scandinavia contained scales and weights, the tools of trade and commerce. They were deal-makers, negotiators, and business operators in their own right. The spellcasters who shaped destiny. But what if I told you some Viking women held a power that even the mightiest warriors feared? Meet the Volva the Cirrus. These women walked between worlds, literally and spiritually. Dressed in distinctive blue or black cloaks, adorned with glass beads and carrying ornate staffs, they practiced cider, a form of magic so potent that it was considered unmanly for men to practice it. Think about that. In a warrior culture obsessed with masculinity, there existed a form of power reserved almost exclusively for women. These weren't village fortune-tellers. Volvas advised chieftains on when to sail, where to settle, and whether to wage war. They performed rituals that supposedly allowed them to see the future, communicate with the dead, and alter fate itself. Kings waited for their prophecies. Communities paid handsomely for their services. Their word could launch 1,000 ships or keep them anchored in harbor. The famous saga of Eric the Red describes a Volva named Thorbjorg who arrived at a Greenland settlement during a famine. The entire community hosted a feast in her honor, not out of politeness, but necessity. They needed her magic to survive. The traveler who reached further than Columbus, her name was Gudrid Thorbjornsdottir, and by the time she died, she'd traveled farther than almost any European of her era. Born in Iceland around 980 CE, Gudrid's life reads like an adventure novel that would be rejected for being too implausible. She traveled to Greenland, where she married a man who died shortly after. She remarried and sailed to Vinland, North America, around the year 1000 centuries before Columbus. There, she gave birth to the first European child born in the Americas, a son named Snorri. But Gudrid wasn't finished. After her second husband died, she embarked on a pilgrimage to Rome, walking across Europe from Scandinavia to Italy. Upon returning to Iceland, she became a nun and founded a church. Her saga, preserved in the Saga of the Greenlanders, reveals a woman who navigated grief, exploration, motherhood, spirituality, and reinvention across 3 continents. She wasn't unique in her travels. Viking women settled in Iceland, Greenland, the Faroe Islands, Ireland, England, and Scotland. Genetic evidence shows they were integral to colonization efforts, not just following their men, but actively participating in the establishment of new societies. The divorce laws that shocked medieval Europe. Here's something that will blow your mind. Viking women could divorce their husbands. In an era when Christian Europe treated women as property that transferred from father to husband, Viking women in Scandinavia retained remarkable legal rights. A woman could initiate divorce for several reasons. If her husband beat her, if he was too poor to support her, if he dressed too effeminately, yes really, or if she simply wanted out. When divorce occurred, she took her dowry back plus often half of the household property. She could own land independently, inherit equally with brothers, and represent herself in legal assemblies. The famous Lex Dila saga tells of Unn the Deep-Minded, who captained a ship full of followers to Iceland, distributed land among her crew, and arranged advantageous marriages for her grandchildren, all after her husband and son died in battle. The warriors hidden in plain sight. Remember that warrior woman from the beginning? She might not have been alone. Recent archaeological reassessments using modern DNA and osteological analysis have identified several other potential female warriors. Burial sites previously assumed to be male based on grave goods are being re-examined. While the debate continues in academic circles, what's undeniable is this. Viking culture produced women who were trained in weapons, participated in raids, and were buried with warrior honors. The Gesta Danorum, written by medieval chronicler Saxo Grammaticus, describes shield-maidens, female warriors who fought alongside men. While some scholars dismiss these as legend, the archaeological evidence suggests at least some women embraced martial roles. But perhaps their greatest battles weren't fought with swords. They fought against harsh climates, food scarcity, disease, and the constant threat of losing husbands and sons to the sea. They fought to maintain households, preserve family honor, and secure futures for their children. These were victories that built civilizations. The legacy written in bones and sagas, the traditional narrative painted Viking women as passive homebodies while men had adventures. But the truth, revealed through archaeology, genetics, and careful saga analysis, shows women who were explorers, entrepreneurs, spiritual leaders, legal actors, and possibly warriors. They managed complex economic systems. They preserved cultural knowledge through storytelling. They settled new lands. They negotiated trade deals. They commanded respect through spiritual authority. They raised the next generation of Vikings who would continue transforming Europe. Their power wasn't despite Viking society, it was fundamental to it. The DNA of modern Icelanders, British, and others across the Viking diaspora carries their legacy. The laws they influenced shaped Scandinavian culture for centuries. The settlements they helped establish became nations. The Viking woman with keys at her belt, staff in hand, or sword by her side wasn't an exception. She was essential. What other historical misconceptions should we shatter? If this deep dive into Viking women's real power captivated you, smash that like button and subscribe for more untold stories from history's shadows. History isn't just written by the victors. Sometimes it's written by those who underestimated the women holding the keys to the kingdom.